The message came on a Tuesday. Captain Taho Kim was eating lunch when the alarm sounded. He dropped his sandwich and ran to the command center of the Korean Space Defense Force headquarters. People were shouting. Screens flashed red. "Sir, you need to see this," said his assistant, handing him a tablet. Taho stared at the screen. Strange symbols moved across it. Not from Earth, not from humans. "How long?" he asked. 20 minutes, sir. It's broadcasting on all frequencies. Every nation is receiving it." Taho nodded. After years of searching the stars had finally answered back. But something felt wrong. "Decode status." "Working on it, sir. Dr. Park says she's making progress." As if summoned by her name, Ju Park rushed into the room. Her lab coat was wrinkled, and her eyes were wide with excitement. "Captain Kim, we've broken the first layer of the transmission. It's a language key." She handed him her own tablet. On it was a simple translation. "Attention, primitive world. The Krasic Empire claims this sector. Prepare for evaluation." Taho felt a chill run down his spine. Not a greeting. A claim. "Get me the president," he said. 3 days later, Taho stood in the United Nations emergency chamber. Leaders from every major nation had gathered. Faces were grim. "The alien vessel will arrive in Earth orbit tomorrow," said the Secretary General. "Captain Kim will serve as humanity's representative due to his first response expertise." Taho bowed slightly. He had not asked for this job. "Dr. Park will join the contact team," the Secretary General continued. Ju smiled nervously from across the room. At least he would have someone smart with him. "These aliens, the Krasic, they do not sound friendly," said the American president. "We don't know that yet," replied the Chinese premier, "but we must show strength." The room erupted in argument. Taho watched silently. Humans were still fighting each other even as a possible enemy approached from the stars. The Krasic ship was beautiful and terrifying. It hung above Earth like a silver knife, 10 times larger than the largest human space station. Taho and Ju waited in the meeting room. The air felt cold. "I've been studying their messages," Ju whispered. "There are patterns hidden in the transmission. Encrypted data." "What kind of data?" Taho asked. "Military specs, weapons capabilities. They're scanning us, Taho, determining our threat level." Before Taho could respond, the air shimmered. A tall figure appeared. It had gray skin that looked like stone. 4 arms, eyes that glowed yellow. "I am Grand Vizier Dreshak of the Krasic Empire," it said in perfect Korean. "I speak for the Emperor." Taho stepped forward. "I am Captain Taho Kim. I represent Earth." Dreshak looked down at him. "Your world is now known to the Empire. We have mapped your defenses. We have counted your weapons." The alien made a sound like stones grinding together, perhaps a laugh. "You are quaint." "We come in peace," said Taho, following the script prepared by Earth's leaders. "Peace is for equals," said Dreshak. "The Empire does not have equals." Ju stepped forward. "We wish to learn from the Krasic, to share knowledge." Dreshak turned those yellow eyes on her. "Knowledge? Yes. You will learn much about serving the Empire." The alien lifted one of its 4 hands. A hologram appeared, showing Earth surrounded by Krasic ships. "Your evaluation begins now. The terms of your surrender will be delivered in 7 days." "Surrender?" Taho felt anger rise in his chest. "We have not agreed to." "Agreement is not required," said Dreshak. "The Empire takes what it wants. Your species has been classified as negligible. No resistance is expected." After the alien disappeared, Taho turned to Ju. Her face was pale. "What do we do now?" she asked. Taho looked at the spot where the alien had stood. "We proved them wrong." Little did the Krasic know, humans had been preparing for this day for a very long time, and Captain Taho Kim was about to show them just how wrong their assessment was. 3 gray ships landed on Earth 1 week later. They touched down in an empty field outside Seoul that had been prepared for their arrival. Armed soldiers stood in formation, trying to look brave. Captain Taho Kim watched from a command tent. Screens showed the ships from all angles. Next to him, Lieutenant Hyun Lee checked their weapons, not that they would help much against the Krasik. "Do you think they can be reasoned with?" asked Hyun. Taho shook his head. "They see us as insects. You don't negotiate with insects." The largest ship opened. Grand Vizier Dreshak walked out with 6 guards. They wore armor that shone like oil on water. Each carried a weapon that hummed with energy. "Showtime," said Tayo, straightening his uniform. "This is what you call a military base." Dreshak's voice was cold as he walked through the Korean Defense Headquarters. "Primitive computers. Crude weapons. Do you still use gunpowder?" Taho kept his face blank. "We have what we need." "What you need is the Empire's protection," said Dreshak. "Many dangers exist in space. Dangers your kind cannot imagine." Hyun Lee walked behind them, recording everything on a small device. He caught Taho's eye and nodded slightly. The aliens had refused to look at certain areas, particularly the AI labs. Later, in a private room, Ju Park showed them what she had found. "The Krasik Empire ranks species on a threat scale," she explained, pointing to translated documents on her screen. "Look here, we're classified as Level 1, negligible." "What's the highest level?" asked Hyun. "Level 5, extinction priority," said Ju. "Species to be eliminated immediately." Taho frowned. "Why are we so low on their list?" "They judge based on visible technology and reaction speed," said Ju. "They move faster than us. Their brains process information quicker. To them, we seem slow and stupid." Hyun laughed. "They've never seen our video gamers." No one smiled at the joke. That night, Taho received a secure call. The screen showed a woman in a military uniform with 4 stars on her shoulder. "Captain Kim, I'm Admiral Subin Choi." Taho stood straighter. Everyone knew Admiral Choi, commander of humanity's secret project. "Admiral, is it true? Does the fleet exist?" She nodded. 287 ships, hidden in bases across the dark side of the moon. "We've been building for 15 years. Taho felt hope for the first time since the aliens arrived. "Will they be ready?" "They're ready now," said Admiral Choi. "But we need time. Keep the Krasik focused on Earth. Let them think we're harmless." "That won't be hard," said Taho. "They already believe it." The next day, Dreshak's team examined Earth's satellite systems. They laughed at the old technology. "You've barely reached your own moon," said one Krasik scientist. "How sad." Taho nodded politely while Hyun clenched his fists behind his back. Later, they toured a factory where tanks were built. "Metal boxes with guns," said Dreshak, tapping one tank with a long finger. "We have not used such things in 10,000 years." "We do our best with what we have," said Taho. That evening, Ju met them with exciting news. "They avoided our AI centers completely," she said. "And I know why. The Krasik don't use artificial intelligence. They think it's dangerous." "It is dangerous," said Hyun. "Yes, but it's also our advantage," said Ju. "Our ships use AI targeting systems far beyond what the Krasik have." Taho looked out the window at the Krasik ships in the distance. "Will it be enough?" "It has to be," said Ju. "Because in 3 days, they'll deliver their terms." "And then what?" asked Hyun. Taho's face hardened. "Then we show them they've made a terrible mistake." On the moon, hidden from Earth and Krasik sensors alike, Admiral Subin Choi walked through a massive underground hangar. Hundreds of ships, sleek and deadly, waited in darkness. Engineers made final adjustments to weapon systems. Pilots ran simulations. The fleet was almost ready. The fleet the Krasik would never see coming. The United Earth Defense Council met in an underground room beneath New York City. Leaders from every country sat around a large table. Their faces were grim. Tahoe and Juwu stood at the front of the room. Behind them, a screen showed the Krasic ships hovering over major cities around the world. "The assessment is complete," said Tahoe. "Today, Grand Vizier Dreshak will deliver their terms." Terms. The American president slammed his hand on the table. "You mean demands?" "Yes," said Tahoe. "Demands." Juwu stepped forward. "Based on our intelligence, the Krasic will ask for approximately 40% of Earth's resources: metals, water, and people." "People." The German chancellor looked shocked. "What for?" "Labor," said Juwu. "The empire uses conquered species as workers." The room went quiet. Then the Chinese premier spoke. "And if we refuse?" Tahoe took a deep breath. "They will make an example of one major city, probably by destroying it." Voices rose in anger and fear. The Secretary General called for silence. "Captain Kim, what is your recommendation?" Tahoe looked at the faces around the table. "We appear to agree. We ask for 1 month to prepare, to gather the first shipment of resources." "And then?" asked the Russian president. "Then we activate Operation Dark Horse." Grand Vizier Dreshak stood in the middle of the UN General Assembly. His 4 arms were spread wide as he spoke. "The Krasic Empire welcomes Earth as its newest protectorate. You will enjoy our protection. In return, you will provide tribute." On a large screen behind him, numbers and images appeared. 40% of your metal production, 30% of your fresh water, 1 million humans for labor each Earth year. Gasps and angry mutters filled the room. Dreshak ignored them. "Your first shipment will be due in 7 days." Tahoe stood up. "Grand Vizier, Earth respectfully requests 1 month to organize our resources. We are slower than your people. We need time." Dreshak's yellow eyes narrowed. "You waste the Empire's time." "Please," said Tahoe, bowing his head. "We wish to provide the best quality resources. 1 month will allow us to do this." Dreshak was silent for a long moment. "Very well. 1 month. But the first shipment must be doubled as payment for this delay." Tahoe bowed again. "Thank you, Grand Vizier." As Dreshak left, Tahoe caught Juwu's eye across the room. She nodded slightly. Phase 1 complete. On the far side of the moon, Admiral Subin Choi stood before 500 ship captains in a hidden base called Armstrong. "The Krasic have given us 1 month," she said. "We have 1 month to prepare our response." She touched a control panel. A hologram appeared, showing Earth surrounded by red dots. Krasic ships. Their main fleet remains in orbit. 30 ships. Not their strongest force, because they don't believe we're a threat. She pressed another button. Blue dots appeared, scattered across the solar system. "Our fleet is ready. 287 ships, hidden in asteroid bases and moon stations. The Krasic haven't found a single one." A tall man stepped forward. "Engineer Min Seo-kang. The final weapon systems are being installed. Our stealth technology will keep us hidden until we strike." Admiral Choi nodded. "The plan is simple. When the Krasic come to collect their tribute, we will show them what humanity is truly capable of." Back on Earth, Tahoe walked with Hyun through an empty hallway. "Do you think it will work?" asked Hyun. "It has to," said Tahoe. "The alternative is slavery." "And if we fail?" Tahoe stopped walking. "Then Earth burns." His phone beeped. A message from Juwu. "Found something. Come quickly." In her lab, Juwu showed them a star map. "The Krasic have done this before," she said. 3 other civilizations in nearby systems, all now serving as protectorates. "Slaves," said Hyun. "Yes," said Juwu. "But look at this." She pointed to a small planet marked with a red X. "They destroyed this world completely when it resisted." Tahoe stared at the map. "Then we won't fail." High above Earth, Grand Vizier Dreshak sent a message to the Emperor. "Primitive species secured. Resource extraction to begin soon. No resistance expected. The Empire had no idea what was coming. 2 weeks passed. Earth appeared to prepare for surrender. Old trucks moved slowly toward collection points. Workers sorted metals and filled water tanks. Everything looked disorganized and primitive, exactly as planned. Tahoe watched from a distance as Krasic soldiers inspected the first shipment of metals. They picked through the piles with disgust. "Low quality," said one soldier to another. "Barely worth taking." "These humans are pathetic," replied the second. "No wonder the Empire classified them as level 1. Tahoe kept his face blank, but inside he smiled. The deception was working. In orbit, the Krasic had built a small station. Grand Vizier Dreshak stood at the window, watching Earth spin below. "Such a blue world," he said to his assistant. "So much water, yet the species remains primitive." "Should we increase our presence?" asked the assistant. "Some reports suggest unusual energy readings from the dark side of their moon." Dreshak laughed. "Waste of resources. Their moon base is tiny and outdated. I've seen it myself." Unknown to Dreshak, the outdated base he had seen was a fake, built specifically for Krasic inspection. Deep beneath the lunar surface, the real work continued. Admiral Subin walked with Engineer Mincio through a massive hangar filled with ships. "Will they be ready?" she asked. Mincio nodded. "The final stealth systems are being installed today. When we move, the Krasic won't know what hit them." "And the weapons?" "Better than we hoped," said Mincio. "Thanks to Dr. Park's team, we've incorporated elements of Krasic technology into our own designs." Admiral Subin stopped walking. "How did she get Krasic technology?" Mincio smiled. "She stole it." On Earth, Ju led a small team through the dark halls of the Krasic embassy. They moved silently, using special suits that blocked Krasic sensors. "2 guards ahead," whispered a team member. Ju checked her watch. "Wait for it." A small device on the wall blinked 3 times. The guard suddenly slumped to the floor, asleep. "Gas works," said Ju. "We have 4 minutes." They rushed to a large door. Ju placed her hand on a scanner. A fake hand grown from stolen Krasic DNA. The door opened. Inside was a room full of alien computers. Ju plugged a small device into one. "Downloading now," she said. "Tactical data, fleet positions, weapon specs, everything we need." 3 minutes later, they were gone. The guards would wake with no memory of falling asleep. Tahoe met Ju at a secure location. "Did you get it?" he asked. She handed him a small drive. "Everything. Their entire battle plan. They have a much larger fleet waiting just beyond the solar system. They plan to bring it in once the resource extraction is fully underway." Tahoe took the drive. "This changes things. We need to move sooner than planned." "How soon?" "I'll talk to Admiral Subin tonight." On the moon, Mincio received the stolen data. His eyes widened as he reviewed it. "This is incredible," he said to Admiral Subin. "Their ships have a fatal flaw. Their shield generators can't handle rapid frequency changes. Can we exploit that?" "Already working on it," said Mincio. "I'm modifying our weapons now." The next day, a Krasic commander named Sub-Vizier Trelk noticed something strange in Earth's power readings. "There are spikes in global energy consumption," he told Dreshak. "Regular patterns, coming from multiple locations." "What could cause that?" asked Dreshak. "Unknown," said Trelk. "But it's not consistent with the technology we've observed." Dreshak frowned. "Investigate. Take a ship to these locations. Be discreet. We don't want to alarm the humans." Trelk bowed. "Yes, Grand Vizier." As Trelk's ship prepared to leave, Hyunli watched from a hidden camera. He immediately called Tahoe. "They're getting suspicious," he said. "They're investigating the power surges from our hidden bases." Tahoe's voice was calm. "Then it's time. Send the signal." Across Earth, hidden transmitters sent a simple code to the moon. Dark Horse activated. On the lunar surface, Admiral Subin received the message. She turned to her officers. It's time. Launch the fleet. Beneath the lunar surface, bay doors began to open. Earth's hidden fleet was about to reveal itself to the Krasic and to history. Sub-Vizier Trolk's ship moved quietly toward the dark side of the moon. He had chosen a small scout vessel to avoid detection. 2 other Krasic officers stood at control panels. "Energy readings are strongest here," said one officer, pointing to a map of the lunar surface. "That can't be right," said Trolk. "The humans have only one small base on this side of their moon. We inspected it ourselves." "Nevertheless, the readings are clear." Trolk frowned. "Take us down." Stealth mode. The ship descended toward the lunar surface. Dust swirled beneath them as they approached a large crater. "Nothing here," said Trolk, looking out the viewport. Then the ground began to move. Massive doors slid open in the lunar surface. Trolk's eyes widened. Below them was not rock, but a gigantic hangar. And inside, "By the Emperor," whispered Trolk. "Ships. Hundreds of them." The officer at the scanner looked up in shock. "Sir, these are warships, advanced designs, nothing like the primitive technology we observed on Earth." Trolk stared in disbelief. "We've been deceived. Send an emergency signal to Grand Vizier Dreshek. Now." In his office on the orbital station, Dreshek received Trolk's message. He listened with growing anger. "Impossible," he shouted. "These primitives couldn't hide such technology." He slammed his fist on the control panel. "Prepare my ship, and send a message to the Imperial fleet. Tell them to enter this system immediately." His assistant looked worried. "Sir, the fleet is engaged in the Centauri sector. It will take at least 2 days to arrive." "Then we will hold them off until then," said Dreshek. "These humans have deceived us, but they cannot match our power." On Earth, Tahoe received an urgent call from Hyun. "The Krasic found the lunar base," said Hyun. "They've called for reinforcements." Tahoe nodded calmly. "Sooner than we expected, but the plan remains the same. Is Admiral Subin ready?" "Yes. The fleet is launching now." Tahoe turned to Juwu, who sat at a computer nearby. "Activate the quantum communication system. Alert all hidden bases. It's time." Juwu's fingers flew across the keyboard. Message sent. All Earth forces are now on high alert. On the moon, alarms blared throughout the Armstrong base. Admiral Subin stood in the command center, watching as hundreds of ship captains prepared for launch. "They found us," she announced. "But we're ready. The Krasic think they're dealing with primitives. Let's show them how wrong they are." Engineer Mincio rushed in, holding a tablet. "The weapons modifications are complete. Every ship now has the ability to bypass Krasic shields." Admiral Subin smiled. Perfect timing. She pressed a button on her command console. Her voice echoed through every ship in the fleet. "This is Admiral Subin Choi. For 15 years, we have built in secret. For 15 years, we have prepared for this moment. Today, humanity stands against those who enslave us." She paused, looking at the faces around her. "The Krasic believe us weak. They believe us primitive. They are wrong. Launch all ships. Operation Dark Horse is now active." In space above the moon, bay doors opened across the lunar surface. One by one, Earth's ships emerged. They were sleek and deadly, painted black to blend with the darkness of space. On the bridge of the flagship Dauntless, Admiral Subin watched as her fleet took formation. 300 ships, armed with humanity's most advanced weapons. "All ships report ready," said her second-in-command. "Good," said Admiral Subin. "Begin Phase 1. From his scout ship, Trolk watched in horror as human vessels poured out of the lunar surface. "There are too many," he said. "We need to warn the Grand Vizier." But before he could act, his ship's systems suddenly failed. Lights flickered and died. Control panels went dark. "What's happening?" he demanded. The officer at the scanner looked up with fear in his eyes. We're being targeted. Some kind of electromagnetic pulse. Through the viewport, Trelk saw a human ship approach. It was smaller than a classic cruiser, but moved with incredible speed and precision. The humans, whispered Trelk. They were never primitive at all. His last message to the Grand Vizier was simple. We were wrong. Grand Vizier Dreshak watched with growing anger as the human fleet spread across space. His orbital station buzzed with frantic activity. Kresic officers rushed to battle stations. How many ships? He demanded. Nearly 300, sir, replied his assistant, all heavily armed. Impossible. Dreshak slammed his fist on the control panel. Where did these primitives get such technology? Unknown, sir, but they are moving into attack formation. Dreshak glared at the display. The 30 Krasic ships in Earth orbit suddenly seemed far too few. Call the Imperial fleet again. Tell them we need immediate assistance. Message sent, sir, but they are still 8 hours away at maximum speed. Dreshak's yellow eyes narrowed. Then we will show these humans the cost of defiance. Target their largest cities. Prepare orbital bombardment. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Admiral Subin watched the Krasic ships move into position above Earth. They're targeting major cities, said her tactical officer. Energy weapons charging. Not on my watch, said Admiral Subin. All ships, execute pattern Alpha. Take out their weapons systems first. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination. Smaller, faster ships darted forward, while larger vessels provided covering fire. Minsio's voice came over the comm. Admiral, remember their shields are vulnerable to rapid frequency changes. 3 quick hits should collapse them. Understood, said Admiral Subin. All ships adjust weapons accordingly. On Earth, Tahoe and Juwu watched from the command center as the battle began in orbit. It's starting, said Juwu, pointing to the large screen. Small flashes of light appeared in space. Weapons fire. Tahoe nodded grimly. Time for our part. He turned to Hyun. Is the team ready? Ready and waiting, said Hyun. Shuttle is prepped for launch. Tahoe checked his equipment. Juwu, activate the virus now. Juwu pressed a button on her tablet. Virus deployed. It should hit their systems in 3, 2, 1. In space, the Krasic ships suddenly faltered. Their weapons powered down. Communication systems failed. What's happening? Shouted Dreshak. Why aren't we firing? Something's wrong with our targeting systems, said his assistant. Some kind of cyber attack. Impossible. Human technology is too primitive. Sir, the human ships are firing. The first shots hit the Krasic flagship. As Minseo had predicted, the rapid frequency changes in the human weapons penetrated the Krasic shields. 3 hits and the shields collapsed. More human ships moved in, targeting weapons and engines rather than destroying the vessels completely. In a small, fast shuttle, Tahoe led a strike team toward Dreshak's command ship. They wore special armor designed by Minseo, lightweight but strong, with built-in life support. Remember, said Tahoe to his team, our goal is to capture the Grand Vizier, not kill him. We need him alive. The shuttle dodged debris from the battle. Human ships were winning, but some had taken damage. The Krasic were fighting back hard. Hyun pointed ahead. There's the command ship. Looks like their hangar shields are down. Perfect, said Tahoe. Take us in. The shuttle slipped into the Krasic hangar bay. As soon as it landed, Tahoe's team rushed out, weapons ready. Surprisingly, they met little resistance. The virus must have affected their internal systems too, said Hyun. Good, said Tahoe. Let's find Dreshak. On the Dauntless, Admiral Subin received reports from all fronts. We've disabled 23 Krasic ships, said her tactical officer. 7 more are retreating. No major damage to Earth. And our losses? Asked Admiral Subin. 12 ships damaged. 3 destroyed. Admiral Subin closed her eyes briefly. Make sure those crews are remembered as heroes. She turned back to the display. What about Captain Kim's mission? They've boarded the command ship. No word yet. Keep our ships in defensive formation around Earth, said Admiral Subin. The Krasic reinforcements will be here soon. Tahoe and his team fought their way to the command deck. The Krasic soldiers they encountered seemed shocked to face humans in combat. They really didn't think we could fight, said Hyun as they reached the main door. Their mistake, said Tahoe. Ready? The team nodded. Tahoe pressed a device to the door. It slid open. Inside, Grand Vizier Dreshak stood surrounded by guards. His yellow eyes widened at the sight of Tahoe. You, he hissed. How dare you board my ship? Tahoe stepped forward, weapon raised. Grand Vizier Dreshak, in the name of Earth and all free worlds, you are now our prisoner. The Empire will destroy you for this, shouted Dreshak. Tahoe smiled coldly. Maybe. But first, we have some terms of our own. 3 days after the Battle of Earth, Admiral Subin called a meeting on the Dauntless. Earth's leaders joined by video. Tahoe, Juwoo, and Hyun sat at the main table. In a secure cell elsewhere on the ship, Grand Vizier Dreshak remained under guard. The Krasic reinforcements have retreated to the edge of our solar system, said Admiral Subin. They're waiting for more ships. How much time do we have? Asked the UN Secretary-General. 2 weeks, maybe less, said Admiral Subin. They're gathering a much larger force. Tahoe leaned forward. Then we should strike now, while they're still regrouping. The room went quiet. Admiral Subin nodded slowly. Captain Kim is right. We can't just defend Earth. We need to take the fight to them. How? Asked the Chinese premier. Their empire spans dozens of star systems. Juwoo stood up and touched a control panel. A star map appeared above the table. We don't need to attack their entire empire, she said. Just these 3 systems. She pointed to planets glowing red on the map. These are the worlds they've enslaved, the ones closest to Earth. If we free these planets, said Tahoe, we can form an alliance. Together, we might stand a chance against the Empire. The leaders looked at each other. Finally, the Secretary-General spoke. Do it. 2 days later, Earth's fleet jumped to light speed. They had been divided into 3 groups. Admiral Subin led the largest group toward Proxima Centauri. Tahoe commanded the second group heading to Barnard Star. The third, smaller group went to Ta Ceti under Hyun's command. On the bridge of his ship, the Phoenix, Tahoe watched as they approached their target. Exiting light speed in 3, 2, 1. The stars stopped stretching. Ahead of them was a blue-green planet with 2 moons. 5 Krasic ships orbited it. They don't see us yet, said Tahoe. Our stealth systems are holding. The communications officer turned to him. Sir, we're receiving signals from the planet. They've detected us, but they're not Krasic signals. Put them through. A voice spoke in a strange language. The ship's computer translated. Unknown vessels. If you are enemies of the Krasic, we can help. Tahoe smiled. Tell them we're here to free their world. The battle for Barnard's planet was short. The Krasic ships, caught by surprise, fell quickly to Earth's weapons. On the surface, the local beings, tall, 4-armed creatures called the Nari, rose up against their Krasic overseers. Tahoe led a team to the planet's surface. The Nari greeted them with joy. For 20 years, the Krasic have ruled us, said their leader, a female named Zora. We thought no one would ever help us. The Krasic tried to enslave our world too, said Tahoe, but they failed. How? Asked Zora. They are so powerful. They underestimated us, said Tahoe, just as they underestimated you. Meanwhile, Admiral Subin's fleet had succeeded at Proxima Centauri. The native Proxians, insect-like beings with advanced technology, joined Earth's forces immediately. At Ta Ceti, Hyun's smaller fleet struggled more but eventually prevailed with help from the fish-like Setians who controlled the planet's oceans. Within 1 week, all 3 systems were free from Krasic control. Back on the Dauntless, now orbiting Proxima Centauri, Mincio worked with alien engineers to improve Earth's ships. Their technology complements ours perfectly, he told Admiral Subin. The Proxians have better weapons. The Nari understand Krasic shields better than we do. And the Cetians have faster engines. How soon can we integrate these improvements? Asked Admiral Subin. We've already started, said Mincio. By the time the Krasic counterattack comes, our ships will be twice as powerful. On Earth, Zhu presented the good news to the Defense Council. The coalition of free worlds is now official, she said. Earth, Proxima, Barnard, and Ta City, together we stand against the Krasic Empire. The Secretary-General nodded. And our prisoner? Has Grand Vizier Dreshek provided any useful information? Yes, said Zhu with a smile. He's told us everything. Their fleet movements, defensive positions, communication codes. He thought we would torture him. When we treated him with respect instead, he was so confused that he started talking. Will it be enough? Asked the American president. It has to be, said Zhu, because the emperor himself is coming. With 1,000 ships, news of the rebellion spread quickly through the Krasic Empire. 3 systems lost, a Grand Vizier captured, and the humans, a species deemed primitive, leading it all. On the imperial throne world, Emperor Krull Xi raged at his advisors. How could this happen? He shouted. His stone-like skin had turned dark gray with anger. How could primitives defy our forces? No one dared answer. Finally, the war minister spoke. My emperor, the humans hid their true capabilities. They tricked us, and you fell for their tricks. The emperor stood, towering over his advisors. I will handle this myself. He turned to his commander. Prepare my personal fleet, 1,000 ships. We will crush these rebels and make an example of Earth. In the coalition headquarters on Proxima Centauri, Tahoe met with leaders from all 4 worlds. Admiral Subin joined by video from her ship. The Emperor himself is coming, said Tahoe, with the largest fleet the Empire has ever sent against a rebellion. The Proxian leader clicked his mandibles nervously. Can we defeat such a force? Not through direct combat, said Tahoe. We need a different approach. He touched a control panel. A hologram appeared showing the Krasic fleet structure. The Krasic fight like they rule, from the top down. The Emperor's ship controls all others. If we can take out the command ships, the rest will be thrown into chaos. How do we get close enough? Asked the Nari leader Zora. They will have heavy defenses around the Emperor. Admiral Subin spoke up. We don't fight their whole fleet. We draw them into a trap. On the Dauntless, now upgraded with alien technology, Mincio showed Zhu and Hyun his latest discovery. I've been studying Krasic FTL drives, he said. There's a flaw in their design. He pointed to diagrams on his screen. When multiple Krasic ships jump together, they create a shared energy field. It makes their jumps more efficient, but it also creates a weakness. What kind of weakness? Asked Hyun. If we can disrupt that field at the right moment, we could disable their entire fleet at once. Zhu's eyes widened. Can you build something that could do that? Mincio nodded. With help from the Proxian engineers, yes, but we would need to get very close to their command ship to use it. I think I know how, said Hyun. 2 days later, the coalition leaders approved Tahoe's plan. The trap would be set in the neutral Andromeda sector, a region of space with dense asteroid fields and unusual radiation patterns. Admiral Subin would lead the main fleet, consisting of 450 ships from all 4 worlds. Tahoe, Hyun, and a small team would take a specially modified ship on a more dangerous mission. As preparations began, Zhu approached Tahoe. I'm coming with you, she said. It's too dangerous, said Tahoe. We probably won't survive. If this plan fails, none of us will survive, replied Zhu. Besides, someone needs to operate the disruption device Mincio is building. I'm the only one who fully understands how it works. Tahoe looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. 5 days later, sensors detected the Krasic Imperial fleet entering the edge of Coalition space. 1,000 ships, moving in perfect formation. At their center was the Emperor's flagship, twice the size of any other vessel. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Admiral Subin addressed the Coalition forces. Today we fight not just for our worlds, but for freedom across the galaxy. The Krasic believe might makes right. They believe they can take whatever they want. Today, we prove them wrong. She turned to her communications officer. Send the message to all Krasic ships. Throughout the Imperial fleet, screens lit up with Admiral Subin's face. Attention Krasic Empire. This is Admiral Subin Choi of the Coalition of Free Worlds. We know why you have come. We offer you one chance to withdraw. Return to your space, recognize our independence, and there will be no more bloodshed. The response came quickly. Emperor Kral Xi himself appeared on the Dauntless's main screen. His yellow eyes glowed with hatred. Primitive creatures, your rebellion ends today. Your worlds will burn. Your species will serve, or they will die. Admiral Subin nodded calmly. As expected, all ships, battle positions. Operation Spear is now active. As the Coalition fleet moved into defensive formation, a small, unmarked ship slipped away, heading toward the edge of the system. On board were Tahoe, Juwu, Hyun, and their team, carrying Mincio's device and the fate of 4 worlds. The Andromeda sector blazed with weapons fire. The Coalition fleet, outnumbered more than 2 to 1, fought with desperate courage against the Imperial Armada. On the Dauntless, Admiral Subin watched the battle unfold. Coalition ships moved quickly, using the asteroid field for cover. The Krasic ships were larger and more powerful, but also slower. Status report, she ordered. We've lost 37 ships, said her tactical officer. Krasic losses at 62. But they can afford more losses than we can. Subin nodded grimly. Keep the Emperor's ship occupied. Buy Tahoe's team more time. Tahoe's small vessel approached the rear of the Krasic formation. It was specially designed to look like a Krasic scout ship. Inside, Juwu monitored the sensors. They haven't detected us yet, she said. Their attention is focused on the main battle. Hyun piloted the ship carefully through the debris of destroyed vessels. We're getting close to the jump point. According to Mincio's calculations, the Emperor's fleet will make a coordinated jump to surround our forces. That's when we strike, said Tahoe, when all their ships are connected by the FTL field. Juwu checked the disruption device. It hummed softly. Ready when you are. Tahoe touched his communicator. Admiral Subin, we're in position. Begin Phase 2. Admiral Subin smiled as she received Tahoe's message. All ships, execute Maneuver Delta. Fall back to Position Beta. The Coalition fleet began a carefully planned retreat. It looked like they were running scared, but each ship moved to a precise position. On the Emperor's flagship, Kral Xi watched with satisfaction. They flee before our might, he said to his commanders. Prepare for the jump. We will surround them and crush them completely. His fleet began to power up their FTL drives. Energy built up around the ships as they prepared to jump together, just as Mincio had predicted. They're doing it, said Juwu, watching her sensors. The energy field is forming. Now, shouted Tahoe. Hyun pushed their ship forward at maximum speed. They darted toward the center of the Krasic formation, straight for the Emperor's massive flagship. Alarms blared as they were finally detected. We're being targeted, shouted Hyun. Keep going, ordered Tahoe. Get us as close as possible. Their ship shook as it took hits from Krasic weapons. Systems began to fail. We're losing shields, reported Hyun. Almost there, said Juwu, her hand steady on the disruption device. Just a few more seconds. The Emperor's ship loomed large in their viewport. It was enormous, like a floating city. "Now, Juwu!" shouted Taho. Juwu activated the device. It pulsed once, twice, then released a wave of energy that spread outward. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, throughout the Krasic fleet, ships began to drift. Lights flickered and died. Weapons powered down. "It worked," said Hyun in amazement. "Their systems are shutting down." On the Dauntless, Admiral Subin watched as the mighty Imperial fleet suddenly went dark. "All ships, attack now," she ordered. "Target their command vessels first." The coalition fleet surged forward. Without central command, the Krasic ships couldn't coordinate their defenses. One by one, their most important vessels were disabled. Taho's damaged ship drifted near the Emperor's flagship. Despite the success of their mission, they were in trouble. Life support was failing. They had minutes at most. "We did it," said Juwu softly. "Yes," said Taho, "but we may not live to see the victory." Suddenly, their communication system crackled to life. "Captain Kim, do you read me?" It was Minseo's voice. "We're coming to get you. Hold on." Through the viewport, they saw a Proxian rescue ship approaching. "I guess we'll make it to the celebration after all," said Hyun with a grin. 1 month later, leaders from 27 worlds gathered on Earth. The Krasic Empire had collapsed after Emperor Krell's capture. System after system had declared independence. In the Great Hall of the United Nations, Taho stood with Juwu, Hyun, Admiral Subin, and Minseo as the Secretary General addressed the assembled representatives. "Today we form the Galactic Concord," she said, "not an empire built on fear and domination, but an alliance of equals, built on respect and cooperation." Former Emperor Krell, now simply a prisoner, watched from a secure area. His yellow eyes no longer glowed with arrogance. As the new charter was signed, Taho turned to his friends. "The Krasic thought we were helpless because we were careful, patient. They mistook our restraint for weakness. Their biggest mistake," said Admiral Subin, "was giving us time to prepare." "And underestimating humans," added Juwu with a smile.